Welcome, Victoria. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today and dive a little deeper into your background and kind of your journey into becoming a UX designer. Why don't you, tell the listeners, the viewers, a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Victoria. I am a UX designer. I have a background of 13 years in professional dog grooming, pet sitting, and social media management. So I came from quite a different background getting into UX, and it's been a journey.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take us back to, maybe before you even found out what UX was, like before it was even in your radar. Tell us, you just shared you were doing, pet sitting, grooming, social media management. What was your life before you discovered UX, and kind of like how did you discover what UX was?
I discovered UX over the pandemic, and I've always been trying to find something that I can continue to do remote work and work from home. And I found a really happy medium with UX and the work that I've done in social media management and my creative side from dog grooming. It just really balanced each other out really well, and my attention to detail. So once I stumbled upon Avocademy on TikTok, and after going over a bunch of different boot camps, I decided Avocademy was the one for me, and I went from there.
Yeah, so you was when you saw like our TikTok, was that the first time you heard about UX, or had you like stumbled it some other way, like looking for remote work? Or were we like the first kind of, thing that said, check out a career in UX?
I think it was one of the first ones. I mean, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it was one of the first. I was, how TikTok is, it feeds you what you look through. So I've been constantly over for several years looking for a really good remote career that would suit my needs and skill set. And eventually UX appeared for me, and I thought Avocademy sounded really good. And of course, I did a ton of research, and I highly recommend that to anybody considering UX. Make sure it's something you want to like commit to, and I think that it really depends on the work you put into it, and making sure that it suits you.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to make sure it's for them, right? Before they dive into it. It's a big commitment, it's a hard journey. I mean, we're about to talk about your entire journey, but it's not an easy journey, but it's definitely, I think, worth it in the long run. What were some of the things you were looking for? So there's kind of three ways you can learn something, right? You can like self-teach, you can do some sort of boot camp, or you can go like the traditional education route, which is another degree, a master's degree, like some sort of 4 year 2 year type program. Did you always know you wanted to go with a boot camp, and if yes, like what were you looking for in a program? Like what was that research that you did? Like what were you comparing?
Right. That is a good question. I actually looked into going to like community college or something to get a degree in it. I spoke to different friends. I spoke to one of my friends that is a designer. She's more of a senior designer, and she recommended going the boot camp route. Of course, I continued to do more research into a lot of different boot camps, and eventually decided on doing a boot camp. Now, boot camp isn't the only way that I have learned UX. I also like researched on YouTube and all different sorts of platforms throughout the learning process. So it's really, even when you're in a boot camp, it's great to go and find outside resources to continuously learn. Even when like right now I'm working now full time and I'm constantly learning still.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So you found us, you did your research, you decided to join Avocademy. Walk us through like what you were feeling when you started the Foundations program. Like, was it excitement? Was it scared? Was it like, oh shit, what did I just do? Like, what was that feeling as you were starting Foundations?
I was excited and nervous at the same time because it was such a big career pivot for me, but it's honestly been a life changer for me getting into UX. financially, emotionally. It's just like a whole like completely different life now. But I will say it's not easy. Like foundations, it was a lot of information to consume. I did all the reading. I I did all the work. I really utilized the mentorship. That was one of my favorite things about foundations, the unlimited mentorship. And that's something that you don't always find in other boot camps, that much mentorship.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So you were excited. Do you remember how long it took you to finish foundations from start to finish? Like, or maybe how many hours a week were you spending approximately on it?
I spent a lot. I didn't get through it. I think it maybe took me a couple weeks longer than the set time frame. I want to say eight. It was like 8 to 10 weeks, something along those lines.
Cool.
I'm
So
not
you're
like
working
really
on it
certain about
probably like
that.
you're probably working like 20 plus hours a week on it,
Right,
right?
right.
Yeah. Cool. So you finished foundations. Did you do a project in the dog grooming space or something that you were like passionate about or
Yeah,
yeah. Okay, cool. So you finished foundations. Did you decide right away you were going to join Career Jumpstart, or did you like try and go out and find a job yourself? Like, what was kind of your thought? Like, okay, I finished foundations, accomplishment, ready for next step. Like, what did that feel like when you completed that?
I was very excited and ready to move forward. I already knew I wanted to do Career Jumpstart. I looked into different people that had gone through any kind of boot camp, and it was highly recommended to have at least, at minimum, 3 projects in your portfolio, 2 to 3. One project, unless it's something outstanding, doesn't usually get you a job.
Yeah.
So, I mean, from there, I just decided I'm going to continue on with this and further my skill set and go from there.
Nice. Walk us through Career Jumpstart. Like, walk us through your experience there. It's very different than foundations, right? Like, you're no longer working independently. There's other people involved in your groups. There's a lot of personalities. There's difficult clients. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. Walk us through your experience in those projects before you started job searching.
Okay, well, Career Jumpstart, it was definitely different for me. I had some very long projects. One project ended up being extremely long just because the scope got out of hand a bit, but it was so great for my learning and development as a designer and how to work with developers. I work with developers very closely. It's important to know kind of how their minds work and how to navigate that space and to design in a way that they can actually code and
Right.
develop.
Yeah, cool. So you finish your portfolio, right? You do these projects, and you start your job search. Walk us through like what you were feeling, through that. What was that experience like? How many jobs did you apply to? How many interviews? Like, what we know it's a roller coaster, so just tell us a little bit more about that.
I, the amount of interviews, I can't remember the exact amount. I want to say it was around 5-ish. And there were a couple of second rounds, and then eventually I got to the job I have now. I It took about 4.5 months job search to find my full-time position, and I think I'm trying to remember the exact amount of jobs I applied to. I think it was around like 950.
Yeah, it's a rough job market right now, but you did it, which I think kind of shows the outcome. So that's a lot. Tell us about your job now. Like, are you is it cool? Like, what is it that your job entails these days?
I love it. I work Monday through Friday. We have really great benefits at this job. The company is really nice and really prioritizes working as a team, which is something I love.
Yeah.
And I am on a team of 2 UX designers.
Nice. That's awesome. Um, tell us a little bit more about kind of the overall feeling, right? I think you mentioned something a couple minutes in that you were like, it's a whole different lifestyle, right? Like it's a whole different kind of, experience now having this job versus what you were doing before. Can you walk us through a little bit of what's the difference between, like pre UX and now as a UX designer? Like what has changed in your life?
Honestly, there's more financial security for me right now. And like I have a senior dog. Has multiple health issues all the time, and I don't have to stress too much when she has like an emergency vet visit. It's not something that I feel like I'm going to be like putting myself into debt about too much. So it's just things like that. It really helps, and to have an actual schedule for my work is really great as well. So
Yeah.
it's not something super out of the ordinary, but it really is a game changer when you don't have to worry as much as you used to about these things.
Yeah, and I think, it may feel like something small, but it's those small things that really make a difference, right? Like stability, having a schedule, financial security, like those are all are big things, or important things, right?
Right.
That make a difference in how you live your life. That's great. Tell us, for those listening that are maybe considering a career change, what would be, one piece of advice that you would give folks?
And becoming a UX designer, considering,
Yeah, considering, yeah.
I would say do your research. That's always important. You really need to know how much time you can commit into learning. And if you do decide to go this route, fully commit, do all of the work, anything. If you go with Avocademy, do everything your mentors tell you to, take their advice. If they tell you something's not right on like your work, just take their advice. They know what they're talking about. That's the biggest tip I can give.
Yeah, to fully commit, do some research and fully commit, which is great. Awesome. I think we're really getting to the end here. Is there anything else you want to share with folks? Anything that really helped you, as you were going through this process before we wrap up?
I would say join design communities, find additional, like I found that meeting other designers and connecting with them and learning from them, following a lot of bigger designers that are more senior into the field has really helped me and like really boosting my confidence. So doing that, and also I found really helpful like Discord servers. I found some different design communities that I've joined that have really helped my my role as a designer, like really like broadening my skill set, and like find like free webinars and different things like that. Those always learning. I'd say continuously learning is the biggest thing when you're
Yeah.
considering going into UX design. It's not like you don't just learn and stop, because it's
Yeah.
always growing.
Yeah, that's I think that's such a good piece of advice. When we started Avocademy, we had this thing that we kept going back to, which was like, how do we teach people how to learn, right? Because we kept saying how, the design world is so like fastly evolving, and there's like new tools and there's new methods and there's new things that come out. So we didn't only need to figure out how to teach you all how to learn these 5 things, but we also had to teach you how to learn in the process, right? Which was interesting. So I love that you're saying this continuous learning thing. There's definitely going to be things, in the next year that you have to keep learning in the next 2 years. So it's great that you're able to kind of focus on that and continue growing and learning. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing a little bit about your experience. Really, really appreciate it.
You're welcome. No problem.